Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration talk show with Dr. Srinivas Attorney. I am Preeti Mulbagal, your host for the show. Today we have with us Dr. Srinivas Kaveti, who is a multifaceted, accomplished international attorney who studied law in India, Australia, England, and the United States of America. So he holds many pro bono cases as well. In the recent times, we have witnessed several aviation disasters, the most significant being the tragic crash of Air India Boeing flight from Ahmedabad, Gujarat to London Gatwick International Airport, where many lives were lost, including the passengers, crew members, and the pilots. Today, with his legal expertise, Dr. Kaveti will shed light on the analysis of this tragic crash and provide his valuable insights into the rights of the victims and their families. Dr. Kaveti, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
So, coming to the legal investigations and the liability, what are the standard legal steps following a major aviation disaster like this in India?
First of all, we need to understand if there is a disaster like this, there are some international conventions which govern this. One of such convention is Montreal Convention. These are all international law. When any disaster, any flight crashes happens, whether it is the fault of the pilot, or if there's any mechanical defect, or if there's any design defect of the aircraft, if the passengers or the people who are flying, if they've been injured, because there's a contract between the courier and the passengers, if they get hurt, any serious injury, or if that courier has caused any property damage, or even if they've lost their lives, if the courier has if it has caused any wrongful death to the people on the land, and all of that governs by the Montreal Convention. Before it was Warsaw Convention, it was then Montreal Convention came. That defines everything: the rights of the passengers, what are the legal remedies available, how much they can claim, everything.
What role does this Montreal Convention play in the compensation of international passengers?
First of all, Montreal Convention, India is a signatory for it. So what would happen, because India is signatory for an international convention, India would have it in the local law. So that means, because we are the signatory for that, if anything happens, any disaster or anything like this happens, that convention says that the victims or the victims' families have to be compensated without proving anybody's fault. That means there are some rights called STR rights. In Indian context, 1.4 crores have to be given immaterial of anybody's fault. So there are, certain time frame the victim's family can claim. It's called statute of limitation. And the passengers or the families, because in this context of Air India crash, everybody died except one person, and there was some ground also, people in that BJ Medical College, medical students and some staff died because of the crash on the ground. So they're all compensated. They have 2 years to compensate. And the law says that immediately the interim compensation has to be paid. Now the Tata, I guess what I heard, and I've seen it online, that they're paid 25 lakhs initially to each passenger's family. And eventually they will, give crore rupees. But actually 1.4 crores have to be paid. And that is the Montreal Convention. But, even the people, who are in the flight, they were paid, families have been paid. But in the BJ's college, medical college building, the Tata said that company said we will rebuild the building, and people who are students, medical students, and staff, and they are also getting compensated. So if there's any property damage, anybody died in the career because what does it mean? Because if you buy a ticket and if you're traveling on a career, means it's basically like you're going in a train or a bus or in a taxi car and you're going in a aeroplane. There is a contract between the passenger and the courier saying that they will safely take you to the destination. If the safety is not there, not done, I mean, measures are not taken, and if there's any disaster or any accident happens like this, there's a wrongful death, the passengers or the family has to be compensated. I mean,
So
that's what the
here
law.
on these grounds, who holds the legal responsibility at this stage? Air India, Boeing, or the DGCA?
Excellent question. Now, because after this accident, they have recovered the black boxes. The Indian government laboratory, they're decoding everything because there's a cockpit recorder, there's a flight recorder. Those things have to be decoded. Prima facie, what people are saying, I mean, initially they thought there was some maybe a terror attack, or they said that somebody has manipulated, or they thought maybe pilot errors, or even fuel, some contamination. All these things it's ruled out now. They said prima facie, they're saying that both the engines have stopped, and we don't know whether it is a technical defect of Boeing or whether it's a maintenance issue. And they thought there may be some bird has hit, but not now. They don't see that anything like that. And because the pilots who've been flying, each one person, the main guy, had more than 8,000 hours of flying. The second one, Mr. Kundor, had more than 1,000 hours of flying. So, I mean, they're very experienced pilots. They don't see any pilot's error because they said, some YouTube, pilots, those who run YouTube channels, they said there's a rat has come. It's a device which comes when the flight took off within few seconds. So, and they think that both the engines had failed. And now, after decoding, that we would know whether it is a electrical failure or hydraulic failure or thrust, whatever. I mean, they will understand whether there was any mechanical failure, and that's one thing they're saying. But if you see the history of Boeing, I mean, Boeing had some issues in the past. Japanese Airlines, Turkish Airlines, and even the Boeing, the same plane which got crashed, it was in 2011, it was manufactured. There was some problems with that plane as well. And in the past, the Boeing had some battery problems and the pilot seat glitch. I think it was some problem when it takes off. So, they're assuming that something must have happened. But when all these things come out, then, these are all forensic analysis. Once they come out, then we would know what exactly is the root cause. I mean, prima facie, what they're saying that there must have been some maintenance issues, because if the maintenance is not done properly, and that earlier some passengers who came from Delhi, they said the air condition was not working and the seat, those monitors are not working. And the guy who's got escaped, that Ramesh, he said there was a flickering of lights in the cockpit and on all the plane of the lights. That means because he jumped out of that emergency door, and he said that there was a big sound and there was electrical flickering of light. So, I mean, we assume based on his statement that there could have been some mechanical failures or even electrical failures. We don't.
So,
Yeah.
how does Indian aviation law define negligence in such cases, especially if a technical failure is involved?
Right. Here we need to understand the conventions as well as the Indian law. Um, anybody to prove or get compensation, this is called negligence. Negligence of the either career, which is Air India, because it's owned by Tata Brothers, and now the Singapore Airlines also have some stake into it. 28% they have invested, and Tata has invested. And it used to be before the government of India used to be the owner of that. But now they sold it. So now the Tata and Singapore Airlines are the owners. So now the minister is saying that there were some mechanical maintenance issues, and the maintenance is done by Air India crew, and they're also saying that there's been contracted out to the Turkish Airlines. If that is the case, if there's any maintenance issues are there, then the Turkish Airlines will be liable. And if there is any defect in the, of the design defect of Boeing, then Boeing will be liable. And if there's any defect on the part or any wrongdoings on the part of pilots, unfortunately, because both the pilots died, we cannot prove that. And if they see that pilots have committed any wrongdoing in the cockpit, then Air India would be liable. So the liability would be what has caused this accident. This is called causation. So, but for the fault, is it a airline's fault? Is it the maintenance fault, or is it the design defect of Boeing, or is it the director of aviation? In some newspapers, they were reported that director of aviation has engineers, and they failed to do inspections in a proper way, in timely manner. And we also heard that there were some lapses on the part of engineers, and they were manipulating the airworthy certificates, and they were not doing their job properly. If the DT Director of Aviation becomes liable because they have a statutory duty, and if the duty is omitted, breach of statutory duty by the aviation authorities, then the government of India will become also liable. So this is something which is serious, and the law says negligence per se. That means the plaintiffs, the family members of the victims don't have to prove the negligence. It's called negligence per se. And the accident which the aircraft went and crashed into that building, and the whole building was damaged, and and the people died. So the law says res ipsa loquitur. That means things speaks by itself. So anybody who goes and files a claim on Air India, or on Boeing, or on the maintenance company, or the omission of the duty, means if the officers have not, engineers have not done their job, effectively and professionally, and the director of civil aviation will be liable. Director of civil aviation means government of India. So it's a serious stakes are there. So it depends upon the investigation, and we have heard that those black boxes and those things are also sent to America. As on today, some International Civil Aviation Authority, and there is some agency which does investigations of such accidents. Airports Authority and other agencies. The people have gone from UK and from US. Even Boeing employees have gone. They're cooperating. The Indian government and the Gujarat government, everybody is cooperating for the investigation. So it's a pretty serious thing, but more than 300 people's lives have been lost, and only one person is saved. The pilots have died and crew have died, and they would, of course, get compensation. Other than that, compensation as per the Montreal Convention, as per the tort law, and as per the criminal law, and as per the laws pertaining to India, and laws pertaining to Great Britain, because there are 50 passengers were there, even they can be sued in Great Britain. And if for some reason, if they find out that there was some product defect or design defect by the Boeing, Boeing would be sued. And people might all have questioned that how can they pay? Because all the airlines and the Boeing, they have billions of dollars insurance coverage. That's mandatory as per the International Aviation. There are some protocols and agents, Montreal Convention, Rome Convention, Chicago Convention. There are, so many conventions. These are all international law. They said every career have to have, it's mandatory to have insurance. So all these
Could
insurances, American insurance is also insured Air India, and Tata Insurance has insured Air India, Oriental Insurance, and for that matter, even Boeing is insured for billions of dollars. So these insurance will compensate the victims.
so does this come under criminal charges? Could they be applied if sabotage or gross negligence is proven?
Well, they said there was one lady was arrested because she said I have done the by using artificial intelligence. There's some YouTube channels and mainstream channels have covered. They're saying that yeah, there was a sabotage, but the minister said there was nothing like that. There's nothing sabotage, or there is no terroristic attacks or anything. I don't think so. If it is proved, then definitely there'll be criminal charges. People who have committed that will might be even hanged to death because so many people have died and big stakes are there because it's $120 million aircraft by the Air India, and so many people, small children died, infants died, some professionals died, even the ex-chief minister of Gujarat died, and some singer of Gujarat died. So big stakes are involved, and there'll be billions of dollars of claim on either on Air India or Tata Group or Singapore Airlines. And if there's a negligence proved by the maintenance crew, by the Turkish Airlines will also be sued. And if there's a design defect or there's product defined by the defect by the Boeing, they would be sued billions of dollars.
Okay. So coming to the victim compensation and civil claims, what are the rights of the victims' families under Indian and international laws?
Under the Indian law, because of the Montreal Conventions, they've already declared and they said they will give it to the victims' families. Under the Fatal Accident Act, it is 1800s law prevalent in India, or in England it was repealed. They said any family members can claim. Family members amounts to brother, father, mother, sister, wife, or children. They can make a claim by indicating that they are the family members because they lost their family member. And if there is any spouse that they lost their spouses and emotional, there's a distress there. People are going through emotional wreckage and they're going for the psychological treatment and loss of earnings by the families, and there are some people, the children are supporting their families, and there's a big financial loss to the families and big loss of life also, and even for the crew, and they'll all be compensated in first in rupees, and they in the past these things happened in India. Supreme Court did interfere in Bhopal gas tragedy and Chernobyl gas tragedy, and Supreme Court has repeatedly said, and even US Supreme Court said, and they will be compensated, cannot be delayed. Even if if the claimants they come to Great Britain or to America or to even Indian Supreme Courts, they definitely will be compensated without any delay. They'll be compensated depends upon case to case, and it's going to be billions of dollars.
What determines the final amount for the victims' families? And are the families entitled to intermediate interim compensation?
Yeah, they are, as per the Montreal Convention, they don't have to go into the depth of who has committed the fault. So they are saying they have to pay. So Tata is, I think, initially what I've come to know, by my research that Tata is given 25 lakhs, and they've asked them to fill up forms and prove their identification. They said they will release 1 crore in the future. And if anybody, I mean, in the future, if the forensic analysis comes of the black box and the flight recorder, and if they find fault with the Boeing, yes, all these guys can come and claim in UK, US courts, because there are 50 or 57 people who are from Great Britain. And I've seen it. There are a couple of law firms from England and America already went to Ahmedabad, and they're sitting there to assist the victims. And we are also talking to some, claimants from US. We got some calls, and because we have some lawyers, those who speak Gujarati from our firm, and they're also going to Ahmedabad in a week's time. And these are all lawyers from Ahmedabad and even from Mumbai. They are going to assist people how to make claims, how to fill up the forms, and if any reports that come, how to make claims in Supreme Court of India, and even in U.S. courts, and if there's any Gujaratis in or any Indians in Indian British nationals who are there in London or in Great Britain, our firm in UK, Kaveti Law Limited, is also assisting them. They would also assist them in UK for filing compensation claims.
So, if the insurance is denied or delayed, what recourse do the victims' families have?
They can go to the court and ask for a compensation. See what happens. Even the claimants can even ask for interest if it is getting delayed, and compensation and their attorney fees as well. And unlimited damages. It's going to, if the courts award damages and if the compensation is not paid within certain period of time, the courts will also calculate the interest and the attorney fees and other expenses also, and they will also award medical expenses and all of that, attorney fees, litigation costs and all. It will become so much on the career company or on the insurance companies or in the Boeing or any of those wrongdoers, any characters who have committed wrongdoing, it will be seriously liable. So they will have to pay. They will pay.
That is interesting. So, coming to the investigation process and transparency, who has a legal jurisdiction over the crash investigation? The AAIB, DGCA, or an international body like ICAO?
Okay. Under the Montreal Convention, they said investigations have to be done where the flight is registered or wherever the accident happened, whichever the country or whichever the domicile, wherever it has happened. In this case, the aircraft is registered in India, and it started from the destination of Ahmedabad. The Ahmedabad authorities and Indian DTDC, and there is an agency under the Montreal Convention that airport. There's an airlines. It's a aircraft investigative agencies are there, and there's an Indian agency. They're doing it. And for the sake of compensation for the victim's family, they could either sue it in the destination place, where this is UK, it's going to UK. And there were some passengers from Canada, some passengers from UK, and from Portuguese. So they can sue them either in Indian courts or in Great Britain or in US, or in if there are any passengers from US. And I think they did not say that any passengers are there. And the convention says it could be in India, and mostly it could be in India now. And if there's anything, if they find Boeing is at fault, the claimants can sue them in US courts. Because the Boeing is registered in Delaware, anybody can file in Delaware federal courts. And because they have headquarters in Chicago, claimants can also sue it in Chicago federal courts.
Okay. So, is the current investigation process in full compliance with ICAO Annex 13 standards?
Yeah, that's what the minister is saying, because these investigations are done by the government officials, and the international agencies also are there. They're cooperating. but it is not something we might know in public. And there was some questions in the past. I said, can we access the, information which they decoded from a black box or flight recorder? These are all confidential information, but when it goes to the trial, they're not available for public, but findings can be found. And, in trial discovery, we can get the information when it goes to court. And these agencies have to submit it to the courts, whether international forums or national forums.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaveti, for your valuable insights. So I understand that we have so many more questions to be discussing about on this tragic topic. And the more we try to open up the topic, the more unseen and unknown questions and diasporas we see. So I'm hoping to catch up with you again on our next show on the same topic, with more questions and more concepts on this, like international implications and your advice to the victims' families and all. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Okay, thank you very much.